Hey everybody, welcome back to 30 Days Until Done. We're working on, starting today, we're starting our third story. The first story was we were working on different ways of attacking writer's block, which is, nonsense. Writer's block is just, people feel writer's block most often when they're first starting to try to write at all because they get overwhelmed and emotional. But it's not a real thing any more than construction worker block is, or grocery store worker block is, or welder's block is, right? Just do it. So we're trying to write these stories that are the true art of storytelling, which is not necessarily about me, all right? Try to move away from that. We're going to work with characters. Okay, so we did the story based on setting. We've done a story based on action. Today we're going to just do a story based on character, which is not to say that you only have setting in these or action or character. It's just how you start, how you work your way into the story. Now this is a really dangerous type of story, right? And the danger is that all you do is you get into the character's head and he just has deep thoughts and the story goes absolutely nowhere, right? You've got to be very careful when you're doing this kind of story to stay focused on what story is. Character, desire, conflict, right? So today we're not going to do any writing of the story. We're going to do some notes and that kind of thing. And this is a story based on character. Now you're going to go back to one of the characters you've worked with. Maybe do another Splinter story if you want. I'm going to go back to my original protagonist from my first story, who was a young boy, maybe 15 years old, and he's obsessed with his phone, right? I'm going to try to get into his head. Now being inside his head, it's fine, it's great, it's wonderful. But he needs to be thinking about the action. He needs to be thinking about his desire and his conflict right from the beginning. So I need to think about, okay, what is this character's desire in conflict? We've got character, desire, conflict. All these three things always working together, right? He's had two things happen. First, somebody's complained about his phone. The second thing is he's watched his father be kicked and sort of unmanned by a deer, right? Now, okay, so now where is he? I think we're going to be in the hotel at night as he's thinking about these things, right? And someone to him, the older generation must seem absolutely ridiculous, right? They get kicked by deer for being stupid. They don't understand his need for phones, and so it's going to be this. Now, what is his conflict? I'm going to have to think about. I'm just down below. I'm writing character, desire, conflict, those kinds of notes, just in whatever free-form way I feel like doing. So, what am I going to write about? He needs a conflict of some. He needs a desire of some kind. Okay, so he's down in this thing. He's at the hotel. He still can't get a cell signal, but he's heard that there's a cell signal at the restaurant, which is a mile away. I don't know. I just made up a lodge, and so he wants to leave, but it's starting to get dusk. And his father, and we know who his father is now. He's this person who needs to assert his masculinity. His father's telling him, "You can't go. It's dark. You have to listen to me." Of course, the young boy wants to assert his adulthood, and so he's going to get up and he's going to start walking, right? And that's going to be the conflict. I want to get out of this room. At the same time, we're in his head, right? This is a story based on character. Now, this is a very, very good time to go into the first person, right? The reason, the first person speaking from the I instead of the he, she, it, right? So this is a story about I. The reason you use the first person, the very best reason to use the first person, is to create a point of view from a unreliable narrator, someone whose consciousness we can't trust, to see how this person thinks about things. Now, if you think of Catcher in the Rye, that you can't get a more unreliable character than that. We have Huckleberry Finn, wonderful, naive, unreliable character, right? Who doesn't realize that the way he sees the world is the way that the rest of the world should see the world, right? He's not getting that. But if you want a good example that you can read really quickly, A&P by John Updike, it's all over the internet, and you can take a look at what he's doing. And it starts in his consciousness, and almost immediately you're going to see that conflict start. Right? It's all about the way he thinks and he sees the world. But the conflict starts when he's in a grocery store and three women dressed in bikinis walk in, and he's like, oh, he's got this conflict. He wants to show that he is a knight, a white knight to these fair maidens, as the antagonist of his boss is trying to vanquish them. It's a wonderfully told story. It's all from this character's point of view, and he's so naive, and he sees the world in such terms of black and white. It's beautifully done, right? That's kind of what we're doing. So if you want to do first person, now's the time to do it. I don't know, you might have been doing first person this whole time, I don't know. We're still in August and we're taping these. So maybe you're doing that. So down below, just write those things, right? Who is this character? What is his consciousness? What sort of thing you're trying to prove? Just in notey sorts of ways so we can talk back to you. Okay, and it should be about September 15th right now. That is 30 days until done for today, and I will see you tomorrow.